할 거에 늦었게 하면
너무 가버리지. 나 또.
나왔습니다.
What? Wala na iya, usah kami pun. Ayo, kita nak order.
Pata नहीं ये नहीं हो रही
Station off and follow up to the outcomes before the vote, may I remind delegations that explanations of vote are limited to 10 minutes and should be made by delegations from their seats. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of the United States.
Thank you, Mr. President. The United States thanks Mongolia for its leadership and efforts in facilitating the process on this resolution. The United States also appreciates the efforts by several members to seek a compromise throughout the negotiation, including to remove preambular climate references that distracted from the true matter under consideration. However, the text of this resolution contains positions we cannot support, which compels us to call a vote today. Regrettably, there were no textual accommodations in support of consensus, despite initial flexibility during open negotiations regarding preambular language on the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda and the Sustainable Development Goals. The United States has made clear that the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the Sustainable Development Goals impinge upon the state sovereignty as a soft form of global governance and will no longer reaffirm them as a matter of course in UN resolutions. For these reasons, the United States will call a vote on this resolution. I thank you, Mr. President.
I thank the distinguished representative of the United States. We have heard the last speaker in explanation of vote before the vote. The Assembly will now take a decision on draft resolution A/79/L89 entitled World Horse Day. A recorded vote has been requested. We shall now begin the voting process. Those in favor of draft resolution A/79/L89, please signify. Those against? Abstentions?
The Assembly is now voting on draft resolution A/79/L89 entitled World Horse Day. Will all delegations confirm that their votes are correctly reflected on the screen? The voting has been completed. Please lock the machine.
The result of the vote is as follows. In favor, 169. Against, 1. Abstentions, 0. Draft resolution A/79/L89 is adopted. Before giving the floor for explanations of vote after the vote, may I remind delegations that explanations of vote are limited to 10 minutes and should be made by delegations from their seats. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Mexico.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mexico is grateful to Mongolia for its efforts to table and facilitate this draft resolution. Mexico recognizes the historic, cultural and socio-economic significance of the horse, as well as its undeniable links with rural communities, indigenous peoples, and myriad cultural expressions. However, my country believes that whilst it is important to establish these ties and step up measures to guarantee their protection and safeguard the horse, we believe that these actions cannot be conducted without can be conducted without proclaiming an international day, as happens in myriad other cases with other animals, goods, etc., etc. We did vote in favour of the resolution. However, my country's stance is clear when it comes to proposals in terms of proclaiming various days, years and international decades. There is a worrying proliferation of such proposals. These commemorative celebrations can be relevant. However, the reality is that in recent years, these days have frequently and unnecessarily increased in number and complexity, as we saw with today's vote. That has placed an untenable burden on our system and our shoulders, and we should take action. As far in this session so far, we've proclaimed 7 international days and 1 international year. In the previous session, we adopted 15 international days and 6 international years. 2 sessions ago, we adopted 12 international days and 2 international years. Combined, this constitutes a total of 27 international days and 8 years proclaimed as such in only 2 sessions. This trend is a growing one. We're adopting more and more resolutions to establish new commemorative celebrations. This involves operational, financial and time burdens both for delegations and for the Secretariat. Consequently, in our view, it is important to move forward towards a more effective mechanism which is more streamlined and coherent in nature, one which allows us to group together these commemorative celebrations under broad thematic frameworks. Mr. President, Mexico hopes that the proclamation of such international days will become more efficient, less repetitive and more substantive in nature. We appeal to all to contemplate balance between symbolism and functionality in the work of this General Assembly. Thank you.
I thank the distinguished representative of Mexico. We have heard the last speaker in explanation of vote after the vote. The Assembly has thus concluded this stage of its consideration of Agenda Item 13. The meeting is suspended for 15 minutes while the ballot papers are being counted.
Towards a just, inclusive and prosperous future. As the country undergoes important reforms and transitions, I want to assure you that the UN stands ready to assist in fostering peace, national dialogue, trust and healing. You can count on the UN to be your steadfast partner, working alongside the government and the people of Bangladesh to help build a sustainable, equitable future for all.
Origins is the beginnings. It means the roots. Talk about people who have been forcibly taken away from the continent. Talking about where I was born, Nigeria, the culture I was raised in. So for me, this piece is drawing from the different symbols and different themes that have to do with the place I was born.
Good Trouble is an act of defiance. The piece behind me is titled Caribbean Olympics. The Haitian Revolution is the theme By addressing the work through a swimming competition, in this case, Haiti is first, waving his hand in the air, symbolizing liberation and the first island to gain independence.
We're so excited to be here at the United Nations. All human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights, and that's what the Stories of Us is all about. We believe that if we're going to make those ideals a reality, then we have to truly know each other, because we are our stories. We are the stories we hear, we are the stories we tell.
This year, we're going into the second decade for people of African descent. We also invited them as part of the Transatlantic Slave Trade and Slavery Outreach Program. It speaks to the origins of enslavement, and then it traces emancipation, those struggles that happened, and then it really lands in this area of asking us to reimagine the world that we want to live in with much more justice and dignity.
For me, having this piece here, the United Nations, in this time, is very important because as a talking drum, I like to drum up the attention that Haiti really deserve and need, especially right now.
Artworks like this help to show the complexities of what makes us human. This is just an amazing thing to have this experience. We walk into this place and see the different sides of what makes us unique and what makes us beautiful, and that's what makes us human.
It's extremely important to recognize that Afghanistan is one of the world's most climate-impacted countries and also prone to natural disasters. I was able to witness firsthand the work that has been done on reintegrating refugees and returnees coming into the province, looking at the work that has been done in response to the earthquake in this area. Innovative approaches have been undertaken by the United Nations and partners to have local vernacular structures which are earthquake resistance, rebuilding permanent structures in this village behind me. I have seen again firsthand the collective efforts of the local authorities, of the partners, NGOs and the United Nations in trying to rebuild the lives together with the communities here. The response has enabled people to rebuild lives in a very challenging environment. And in my visit in Herat, I have had the opportunity to look at private sector enterprises that are working, bringing Afghan men and women into the marketplace, into economic activity, and particularly women-led micro and small enterprises was eye-opening to look at the potential on one side and the need for support for these enterprises to scale up through investments in microfinance, access to markets, support in business literacy skills, etc. This is a vital part of rebuilding Afghanistan with its private sector, tapping into the human capital of Afghan men and women, and affording the space, particularly for women and girls, to contribute and have the space to be part of the nation-building process of Afghanistan.
In a world that is experiencing the first impacts of climate change, one of the most significant transformations is occurring in the cryosphere. Glaciers, once emblematic symbols of snow's timeless accumulation, are now disappearing at an unprecedented rate, leaving a profound impact on our environment and communities. As global temperatures continue to rise, these ancient ice formations are receding faster than ever before, and the consequences reach far beyond the cryosphere alone. Glacier retreat contributes significantly to rising sea levels and threatens the delicate balance of our ecosystems. The rapid loss of glacier mass, water resources, leaving entire communities facing water scarcity, as they rely on glaciers for their freshwater needs and living downstream communities facing an escalating risk of glacial lake outburst floods. Collaborative efforts are crucial to understanding and addressing the complexities of the cryosphere's changes and to protect glaciers and their ecosystem functions. UNESCO World Heritage this XC50. In December 2022, the UN General Assembly declared 2025 as the International Year of Glaciers. This International Year marks a global initiative aimed at raising awareness about the critical role of glaciers, snow, and ice. It will highlight the economic, social, and environmental impacts of UNESCO and WMO are invited to coordinate the International Year, which aims to advocate for more ambitious mitigation, convene countries and communities affected by glacier loss, and mobilize the international community to share knowledge and best practices for preservation and adaptation. The International Year therefore provides a unique opportunity to preserve these invaluable resources and encourage collaborative efforts to safeguard the delicate balance of the cryosphere.
في عدد كبير من المتهمين كانوا داخل السجون لفترات طويلة. عشان يحددوا لك الجلسة انت بتكون اليوم ده، الليلة اليوم ده جا وانت خليك جاهز له، والزمن اللي بديك له والقاضي ده الزمن محدد. انت حاول تفكر فيه كل الأحداث واحكيها بنفس تفاصيلها عشان القاضي يقدر ياخذ قرار في الحاجة دي ويقدر يساعدك.
We hope that the government will prepare an implementation mechanism to ensure that the recommendations of the Judicial Reform Committee are implemented in a graduated manner, subject of course to availability of funds and availability of personnel. But this will lead to a comprehensive development and extension of justice system in this country, which all political parties and all parts of society agree is the utmost necessity of this country.
A very bad situation for people on the job, many of whom are extremely vulnerable, who are being hit for the third time this season by a cyclone. Nearly all of the river basins and dams in Nampula province and many parts of Zambezia province are already full. So this is going to create inevitably some very serious flooding that brings a risk of waterborne diseases like cholera, diarrhea, malaria, diseases that are really killers of children. This cyclone is really hitting a part of the country where the population density is very high. Nampula has the highest number of children out of any province. We've moved our supplies into position so that they're ready to distribute as soon as is possible, as soon as the wind and the rain dies down, and we're able to get out to those affected communities.
Como un facilitador comunitario, puedes ayudar a las personas, no resolviéndolo tú, sino ayudándolos a ellos a que resuelvan los problemas. Estas actividades que nos enseñaron me ayudó a arreglar una circunstancia aquí en la comunidad. Me enseñaron a hacer una pecera, donde como facilitador uno nunca debe de olvidar que debe poner las reglas y las pautas a la hora de empezar. Siempre tiene que haber una secuencia, un inicio, un desarrollo, un final. Así me di cuenta en qué momento puedo o no puedo hablar cuando las personas estén desarrollando todos sus temas. Los conflictos entre ellos, en qué momento puedo permitir que puedan hablar y en qué momento no, para evitar que los conflictos aumenten. Y de verdad que surgió efecto porque se resolvió un problema, un conflicto aquí en la comunidad. Entonces para mí fue un éxito haber aprendido algo de estas prácticas porque lo traje a cabo para la comunidad. Me he dado cuenta que me he convertido aquí en un espacio seguro para la comunidad.
Ici au stade de Gombo, au Burundi, où des milliers de familles réfugiées ont trouvé refuge après avoir fui les conflits au Congo.
Over 63,000 people now have crossed into the country Burundi, fleeing atrocities and deadly conflict in parts of eastern DR Congo, the largest influx this country has seen in decades.
Masaa sikaanza na vindizi usiku. Tulifika asubuhi saa 11 saa 12 tukaanza wai kukula kuvuka ku Rusizi. Tulivuka Rusizi tukafika hapa Rugombo le 14. Ndio tulifika hapa Rugombo, ilikuwa siku ya posho. Tunaona hapa maisha kwa sana vile tuzoee. Kama vile tunaona Mubashe, tulikuwa na mambo kama Nyelo, tunaona Mubashe tuzoee. Sasa tunaenda kushamba kulima hivi tunakala tu vya tuzoee. Ndio maana utakisha kwa kama Nyelo tutarudia.
This country, despite its best efforts, was not prepared for this emergency. Humanitarian agencies are working round the clock. My colleagues are working Monday to Saturday, 6 days out of 7, at Rugombo, making sure that people are registered, trying to fasten the process so that they are moved to the refugee site.
J'ai le virus de planter des arbres. Ça me plaît beaucoup. Ici, c'était un dépotoir de ménagères. Du fait que les villageois ne savaient pas qu'est-ce que c'est l'importance de la forêt, ils prenaient leur ordure et les déposaient. En ce moment, je les ai sensibilisés de leur dire que l'arbre doit vivre comme nous, donc il ne faut pas salir l'arbre. C'est ce qui nous a donné l'impact positif pour avoir ici une périmètre pour cultiver. Le 2 mai 2005, on a allé voir les eaux et forêts qui nous ont attribué 500 mètres carrés. On a initié, intégré les femmes dans un AGR. Et avec ça, on a choisi le maraîchage. On était à 3 hectares. Mais on ne cultive pas sur la extension et on nous a dégraissé et on est à 2 hectares. Si on peut travailler ces femmes dans cette forêt, c'est pour qu'elles prennent également soin de cette forêt. Non seulement ça permet de fertiliser les sols, mais ça permet également de les autonomiser économiquement à travers la vente de fruits. Tous les arbres fruitiers que vous voyez, c'est nous qui l'avons planté. Chaque citronnier, on y récolte plus de 60 kilos. Merci beaucoup. Que ce sont des dames très dynamiques, des dames très braves, qui subissent de plein fouet les effets des changements climatiques. Nous, on vient en rescousse pour informer, pour sensibiliser sur des solutions, la promotion de bonnes pratiques. Les papiers, c'est également l'apparition de nouveaux parasites. Et ça, on le vit ici au quotidien et un peu partout au Sénégal. Ça participe également à la dégradation des sols. Justement, c'est la raison pour laquelle nous, on essaye de trouver comme solution prioritaire aujourd'hui le reboisement massif dans les périmètres maraîchers avec des espèces qui sont répulseurs aussi. Notre projet d'avenir, si les femmes l'acceptent, on veut faire un projet de pépinière
dans les alvéoles pour alléger les travaux. La femme est à l'image de la terre. Ce sont des vrais écoféministes qui sont là, qui sont engagés pour la protection et la préservation de l'environnement. La forêt, c'est nous et nous, c'est la forêt.
فلما بدأت الهدنة الأولى أنا كان من أول الناس اللي رجعت على غزة. المدفوع إن شاء الله أكون في البيت يعني أعمل في مستشفى الشفاء ما قبل الحرب. كانت هنا كل هذه محلات ببيعوا خضرة وفواكه، كله راح ما ضل شيء. يعني أنا بصدمة، ممكن أقدر أحكي إن البلد هذه صابها زلزال ما خلى حاجة موجودة. نرجع نشتغل على شغلنا اللي هي كطبيب، أرجع أشتغل بمستشفى الشفاء، أرجع كدكتور، لكن ما عارف الأوضاع الآن كيف الأوضاع في المستشفى، لأنه أنا لي تقريبا من قبل الحرب ما قبل 7 أكتوبر ما شفتها يعني. رايحين على الشفاء هذا بالك. طبعا هذا منظر محزن. طبعا أنا جيت على المستشفى هذا لما تعينت كنت يعني عمري ما يقارب 25 سنة. مبنى 8 هذا كان مبنى جراحات، في الجراحة العامة وجراحة العظام. أنا بتفرج هيك أنا مش مصدق، الأمور لا تصدق. بين المباني هذه والمستشفى والأطباء زملاتنا، هذا مستشفى الشفاء تمثل لي أنا أولادي انولدوا في المستشفى هذا، يعني أولادي أول ولد عندي انولد في المستشفى هذا. إحنا اللي صار فينا حرام هذا، يعني إحنا يعني إيش ذنبنا إحنا؟ ما هو الذنب اللي إحنا أنا بحكي كشريحة أطباء أو شريحة أطفال أو شريحة ناس بتدرس في الجامعة، ما هو ذنبنا يعني؟ مستشفى الشفاء تساوي حياة كل غزي. الشفاء يعني حياة الفلسطينيين الغزيين. هذا ما تمثل إلي، وهذا ما صراحة ما تقوم به مستشفى الشفاء.
Kisha kubeba mimba, bwana akaendaka, wakati yenyewe niendaka na ndio vile akaendaka aglote, hatukuonanaka tena, na ndio vile nikazala na mpaka hivi.
We have had a few cases where the peacekeepers have admitted the paternity, and so the process can start for recognition of the child and to provide the maintenance and support for that child and to the mother. Member states, many of them, have national legislative frameworks that make it difficult for them to take on the responsibility of paternity, because many of them view the situation of paternity as a private obligation. From the UN side, we view that differently. Because the member state has provided personnel to peacekeeping operations, we think the member state also has responsibility, and it is their responsibility to have the peacekeeper acknowledge this paternity.
Watoto wenyewe walizaliwa kwa MONUSCO na wamama wanakuta kama watachungia watoto wapi, wanateseka. Ndio lomba MONUSCO wapuie, wasaidie wale watoto. Kesho yake wale watoto nao watasaidia nchi na watasaidia watafute babao wenyewe viko wakamate mzigo wa watoto wao.
Moi je plaide aussi auprès des États membres pour une mesure temporaire, parce que ça prend beaucoup de temps, tous les enjeux légaux pour adresser une requête de paternité.
We have not always given the focus and attention over the years to this particular aspect of our work on improving conduct and discipline, but we now have a focus on this because these are children left behind, and it really is our role as the United Nations to acknowledge our responsibilities and to work with the member states who have been part of this problem that we have been dealing with.
يعني بعرفش شو اسوي يعني الليلة والله ما نمنا مش ما نمناش يعني بالمرة مش عارفة كيف ادبر حالي سوا الهواء بيطلع هلا في الخيمة ومش عارفين يعني الواحد يعيش هيك موقف هيك تعيش هيك وضع أختي الصغيرة بتعاني كتير من الأمراض الجلدية يعني أمراض جلدية مش طبيعية بسبب المياه المتلوثة عنا كتير بنجيب من الآبار المية كتير متلوثة بسبب عنا أمراض تلبك معوي سابقة إنه كان البرد كتير الجو بارد على الأطفال والأم يعني بتتغلب في أشياء كتير الأم بتتغلب فيها البرد كتير لما نيجي نغير للطفل لما نيجي نحممه لما نيجي الحمام لأنه خارج خيمه كله مكشوف يعني زي كأنه في الهواء الطلق في كتير أطفال ماتوا من هذا البرد يعني لأن الغاز شحيح والوقود شحيح وفيش كهرباء فيش طاقة مركزية فيش إشي يعني يضخوا في الأطفال لحمات معدودة على الأطفال
Yeah, not that easy to remember that day.
The first sounds of explosions were heard at 5 a.m. I was so scared. I woke up immediately with the thought that the war started.
It was a day of fear. It was the day of astonishment.
My task was just to plan and allocate the needed resources to those frontliners who were serving the families on the move, who were serving children with disabilities, who were serving those the most affected.
During women, together with a local NGO, we opened this safe space for women to support women psychologically and support them in terms of how to survive in these circumstances.
UNICEF mobilized more resources. We figured out the idea of child-friendly spaces which should be available along the way of people who were evacuated.
Believe in a fair future for our country and for my children gives me hope.
There is this saying that the thing that doesn't kill us makes us stronger. And maybe it's true, but I also always say that I wish I didn't have that experience that I have now.
UN does the great work to support those families, and more support is needed. This is still ongoing war, and there's still a lot of humanitarian efforts and recovery efforts is needed to support people and to renew the country.
strikes continue almost every day. Every second day there are reports of people being killed and injured. This war is bad. As we urge the international community to continue to stand with this country in solidarity, to provide the support, to continue the humanitarian work, to also continue some of the early recovery work, the message equally loudly has to be, let this war stop.
J'ai changé le message pour dire que l'Afrique n'est pas une poubelle. C'est ici, donc, c'est le quartier général de l'homme plastique. Un dépotoir d'ordures, donc, transformé, donc, un petit paradis. Tous les arbres que vous voyez ici, c'est moi qui l'ai fait avec mon équipe. Aux enfants qui viennent ici, on leur donne des graines, ils les plantent. Soit tu peux le garder à la maison, ou bien tu vas le laisser ici, et nous, on va continuer de surveiller. L'implication des enfants, donc, je pense que c'est quelque chose de très normal, donc, de travailler sur la protection de l'environnement. Parce que les adultes, c'est un peu difficile, donc, de faire comprendre pour certaines personnes, donc, les dangers qui sont liés sur les matières jetables. Automatiquement, il va capter ça, même s'il voyait son père ou bien sa maman donc, en train de faire cela, eux-mêmes, donc, il va prendre donc, la responsabilité de le sensibiliser pour que sa maman arrête définitivement ça. Ce qui a changé, nous avons constaté vraiment toutes les grandes surfaces commencent à utiliser des sacs en papier. Donc il y a certaines gerblées qui étaient là au début, il est en train de disparaître définitivement donc, dans la circulation.
Reporting from Tel Aviv, he said that there were confirmed reports from humanitarians and others that a kilometers away from the place of reaching the humanitarian distribution center, according to the mechanism put in place, not the UN mechanism, and then there were gunned down some Palestinians through snipers and other methods of killing them to horrify them so that they do not even reach this mechanism that they put in place for humanitarian assistance. So the mechanism of the UN is the solid one, is the one that is supported almost by everyone, the Arabs, the Muslims, the Europeans, everyone, because why do you try to find a mechanism when the existing mechanism is a solid one, tested one, approved itself, they have the experience, they have the personnel, they know how to reach the people in all corners of the Gaza Strip and provide humanitarian assistance to them. So we will know in the Security Council at 12 o'clock exactly what the E10 will proceed to do with the humanitarian draft resolution. And now the Security Council has to act. And the threat or the fear of not succeeding should not deter the Security Council from carrying its responsibility. But of course, the Security Council speaks for itself. We are in contact with all those who are genuinely concerned and outraged. It was not only the Palestinian people who are outraged, as I expressed in my last statement in the Security Council, but I can objectively say the great majority of humanity and nation states are outraged of what is really going on in Gaza and they want to do something. So that's why we see some elevation and changes of positions from big important countries in Europe and beyond, such as France, UK, and Canada. Their statement 10 days ago was very clear, very powerful, and very different than previous positions that they have articulated in this issue. That is significant. That is a beginning of turning the corner, and we hope to see more of that. And it is not Israel that will decide the future of the people in the Middle East, especially the Palestinian people. It is us, we, the people, will determine our own future with the support and the help of the great majority of nations. So we will see what happens in the Security Council. In the General Assembly, we are grateful for Spain's initiative to go to the General Assembly with a humanitarian resolution. That position was adopted at the highest level in Spain, led by the Prime Minister. We appreciate that, and we are grateful for
your seats. The result, the Assembly will resume its consideration of sub-item A of Agenda Item 114 entitled Election of Non-Permanent Members of the Security Council. The result of the voting is as follows. Group A, African and Asia Pacific States, 3 seats. Results of the vote. Number of ballot papers, 188. Number of invalid ballots, 0. Number of valid ballots, 188. Abstentions, 1. Number of members present and voting, 187. Required 2/3 majority, 125. Number of votes obtained. Bahrain, 186. Democratic Republic of Congo, 183. Liberia, 181. Group B, Eastern European States, 1 seat. Results of the vote. Number of ballots papers, 188. Number of invalid ballots, 0. Number of valid ballots, 188. Abstentions, 10. Number of members present and voting, 178. Required 2/3 majority, 119. Number of votes obtained. Latvia, 178. Group C, Latin American and Caribbean States, 1 seat. Results of the vote. Number of ballot papers, 188. Number of invalid ballots, 0. Number of valid ballots, 188. Abstentions, 8. Number of members present and voting, 180. Required 2/3 majority, 120. Number of votes obtained. Colombia, 180. Having obtained the required 2/3 majority and the largest number of votes, Bahrain, Colombia, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Latvia, and Liberia are elected members of the Security Council for Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, let me reread the sentence. Please do not clap while I'm reading. Having obtained the required 2/3 majority and the largest number of votes, Bahrain, Colombia, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Latvia, and Liberia are elected members of the Security Council for a 2-year term beginning on January 1st, 2026. I congratulate the states which have just been elected members of the Security Council, and I thank the tellers for the assistance in this election. The Assembly has thus concluded its consideration of sub-item A of Agenda Item 114. Before adjourning, I wish to inform members that the following representatives have been elected chairpersons of the main committees of the Assembly at its 80th session and are accordingly members of the General Committee for that session. Ladies and gentlemen, please let me finish. First Committee, His Excellency Maurizio Massari of Italy. Special Political and Decolonization Committee, Fourth Committee, His Excellency Jose Alberto Briz Gutierrez of Guatemala. Second Committee, His Excellency Lamin Diba of Gambia. Third Committee, His Excellency Chet Chai Chaivavid of Thailand. Fifth Committee, His Excellency Zuzana Horvath of Hungary. Sixth Committee, Her Excellency Leila Castillon Laura Santos, Philippines. I congratulate the chairpersons of these main committees at the 80th session of the General Assembly on the election. The meeting is adjourned. Okay, one more.
According to sources,